Hi, it's reading time. We're moving on up. Oh, we just got to the top of the outcropping, and so now they've hurried over into the wooded area so they can set up for a camp of some type because it's going to rain like cats and dogs, or maybe even frogs. Okay, so Thomas and Ella are setting up a place for Champ to be safe. Right. And they've just remembered they've done this before and they did it together. And so they smiled at each other, genuine smile from the heart, right? Well, here we go. Again, the rolling thunder fills their ears as Champ neighs loudly again. Ella calms him down. Finally, Bruce announces that they have done all they can do to prepare. Remember, they got the bedding already and everything to protect all the equipment. Okay. Now, looking at the sky and feeling the wind, he thinks they have time to rustle up those lunch sacks and have a bite to eat. Ella notices that Bruce doesn't have a lunch sack. Bruce assures her he is just fine with his emergency food, jerky and leftover biscuits. Ella sits down in her chair with her sack, grateful for rest. They each find a log or a rock to sit on, and they clamp as they circle up. Well, now, Ella's chair, they had to brace on rocks because it's not flat there for a chair. Not even flat enough for a chair. It's at such a big angle. Well, actually, it's a non-campfire seating area, just for a simple supper. They gratefully get their sack of food, and after a prayer of gratitude by Bruce, they enjoy their hard-earned supper. It's especially tasty since they missed lunch out there on that outcropping. After they eat, Ella says, "Oh boy, what I wouldn't give to have a shower bag right now. I'm as dirty as that stone lying there on the ground," as she reaches down and touches a rock next to her. Paul and Bruce simply shyly smile at each other. Bruce says, "Actually, I think you might get to take a good shower in the storm tonight, so just wait." Ella sighs. No complaints at all. She just sighs. Then, filled with concern, Ella turns to Bruce and asks, "Where do you think Jack is right now? I wonder if he'll be caught in this storm." Bruce smiles that knowing smile of his and says, "Don't you worry yourself about Jack. I'm very sure he is curled up on the rug in front of the fireplace in the kitchen with Maria. In fact, that's probably what he was telling us when he barked his goodbyes this morning. Most of the time, animals have a good sense of what's coming from Mother Nature and what she's going to throw at us." Just then there's a loud clap of thunder. Champ neighs loudly. Ellie gets right up and quickly goes to comfort him. He isn't far from the campsite, so she is with him lickety-split quick and whispers in his ear, "Wish you were closer to my hammock," as she strokes his neck and she confides in him, "We could comfort each other." Ella doesn't see that Thomas is standing in a nearby tree, just in case his sister needs him. Then a few raindrops start to lightly fall. Bruce is on high alert and yells out, "We need to get Ella into that hammock now before the bucket of rain comes down on us." Ella scrambles to her hammock. Then, not wanting her to tumble everything out, Thomas picks her up and places her in her safe little hideaway. Ella pleadingly asks, Will you boys be okay out there?" Thomas assures her that they secured the tent in a way that they have the awning of the tent as a lean-to to protect them in the night, and it's covered with plenty of pine boughs. Bruce, with fatherly concern, hands Ella a jar of salve, instructing her, "Here, you put some of these on those cuts." Ella gladly takes a jar and sincerely says, "Thank you, Bruce, and again you're doing what Uncle Charles would do for me." She sighs, not a cry, just a good long sigh, as Thomas says good night and thoughtfully adds, Say a little prayer for us, Pixie, and we'll be fine. I know Barbara will say one for us. She's always praying, not just at church." Ella sincerely promises, "I will, and I know my James will be offering up prayers for us right now, too. He always does that." The wind picks up again, the thunder rolls, and lightning is getting closer by the minute. After they secure the hammock, that's Bruce and Thomas, Bruce gets Ella's chair safely tucked under the main tent. Well, you know, the safe place. It's not in the tent. It's under the tent. And then the rain begins to fall harder. They hear thunder too, not too far off in the distance, and quickly a flash of light. The men hurry to get under the lean-to with the dreaded anticipation of the storm that is upon them. The brightness of the day becomes like evening twilight. Then it's clouded over, and it becomes too dark, too quickly, as the men hunker down on the boughs under the makeshift lean-to. Thomas has managed to get under the lean-to just before the cloudburst hits. That would have left him soaked to the skin. Bruce is cautious. What were you up to? No, he's curious. Thomas was cautious. Bruce is curious. What were you up to? Thomas just quietly replies, Champ needed a bit of tending to before I had bedded down. Besides that, I'm not so sweet that I'd melt in the rain. Bruce grins and nods in approval. Ralph and Paul look at each other and smile. They're pleased that Thomas is willing to be so helpful. Then, silence among themselves. The storm rages loudly. They wait for the storm to pass, or so they hope. Soon the loud rumble of the thunder, and they hear Elsie's voice. Is anybody out there? I feel so alone. Bruce calls out, We're here, nearby. Just then another clap of thunder comes closer. Hearing that neighing of Champ, she calls out, Oh, will Champ be okay with all this thunder? It's kind of scary. He might be scared. Bruce, feeling her anxiety, makes a suggestion in his fatherly voice. Why don't you sing to him like you did when you were little? I remember when he was a colt, he would come and snuggle up to you when you sang that silly song of yours. Ella isn't sure and quietly asks, Do you really think it would help him? Then Thomas calls out, Sure wouldn't hurt. Try it. Then another clap of thunder rolls over them. Within a few minutes, sounds of the lightning flashing. Ella begins her little song. Oh, champion, you are my favorite champion. And before she can get to the rest of the verse, her hammock is rocked by a nudge. Ella stammers, What was that? That wasn't the wind. Something touched me. Thomas lets out a chuckle and says, It was only Champ. Bruce is surprised as Ella. Thomas comfortably continues, I moved him closer to you. I remembered how you were able to keep him calm on stormy nights when he was a colt. Just keep singing and he'll be fine. So she does just that. Oh, champion, oh, champion. For a while, singing that song works for the two of them, Ella and Champ. Then, with a very loud clap of thunder exactly overhead, with a bright light flashing right on its heels, Ella cries out, Are you there? Somebody talk to me, or just talk, or say something. Bruce, could you tell us more about Uncle Charles? How about telling us how he got the ranch started, or something? Ralph quickly says, Yeah, stories about the ranch. So, does everything always run so smoothly here at my ranch? You always seem to know what to do. Bruce grins and says, Well, we've had our few share of family accidents. Ella, do you remember when Maria broke her wrist and you were the official baby tender? Ella, with a quiver in her voice, is going to say, No, not really. Didn't I just do that all the time? Bruce smiles in the darkness of the storm and reminds her, Well, mostly. It's just that this time she wasn't able to be your helper. I was. Thomas squinches up his face and says, When did that happen? Paul quickly says, And what happened that Maria was laid up like that? Ralph moans, Oh dear, I feel a story coming and I don't have my equipment. Bruce speaks up quite loudly enough for Ella to hear through over the storm. So is anyone interested in a family adventure story? Just then another clap of thunder is heard. And Ella quickly responds, Please tell me a story to keep my mind off this storm. Thomas agrees that it will be good for her, and Ralph and Paul agree because they want to hear about this family adventure. Bruce begins his family story loudly enough to be heard over the roaring of the wind. It happened when Bianca was about a year old. Maria was helping to train a new 3-year-old yearling that we had bought. As I recall, I think his name was Micah. Anyway, we took him out each evening for a ride along the meadowlands. He was fairly skittish in the foothills, and she was trying to bond with him to help calm him down. One evening we were on our way back from the farm area when the shadows were long across the road. A rabbit bolted across his path and he reared up, and before you know it, there was high old Silver, and he threw Maria into the nearest patch of rocks, which is pretty easy around here because, after all, it's Rocky Mountains. Ella calls out, "Oh, now I remember," and she was never angry with him. She said it was her fault for not training him better. Bruce quietly says, "That's right." Ralph quickly, "What injuries did she get that kept her from taking care of Bianca?" Bruce continues, "It wasn't so much the broken wrist. She could handle that. It was those 3 broken ribs." Paul squirms in a bit as he says, "Oh, I know how that feels. Been there, done that. And that's nothing to do. And there's nothing to do for that except they wrap you up like a mummy. It doesn't help with the pain at all." Bruce quietly agrees, and Ella calls out excitedly, "That's right. It hurt too much to even lift up Bianca. I was there for her, wasn't I?" Bruce totally agrees. "You sure were, along with Belle and Sarah. You were a great team of helpers, and I was on the midnight shift. Dear Maria would make up her bottles, and I would feed Bianca in the night. Then I'd walk the floor with her by moonlight." Ella loudly calls out with a joyful remembrance in her voice, saying, "As I recall, the wrist healed faster than those ribs." Bruce nods his head and responds, "You are so right." It was months before she could pick up Bianca or even a heavy pot in the kitchen. Thomas speaks up, "That's right. The boys and I were on kitchen duty for her, lifting anything she couldn't handle. 4 months on KP. Ralph gently says, "Yes, sir. This ranch life is full of surprises." Paul is curious and asks, "What happened to Micah? Is he still part of your herd?" Thomas quickly says, "Micah, I remember him. He had trouble on the trail. Charlie worked with him, too. What did happen to him? I don't remember." Bruce sighs and admits, "Well, some horses just don't take to the mountains. He was a valley horse. He liked being with the children all right, just not on those hills. Charlie sold him a farmer over in Wyoming, a nice flatland farm. That man had about a dozen kids. Micah did real well on that farm. Charlie showed the man and his children how to allow Micah to choose his partner for the day. The kids liked that. So did the parents. It saved a lot of contention." Alice starts to ask another question, then suddenly a strong burst of wind blows through the camp and rocking her, and the trees are singing loud songs with the wild wind whipping through them. Ella calls out, "Somebody come and help me. The wind is rocking me so much, and the noise of the trees. Well, it can get scary. I may be dumped out of this and roll down the mountain." Thomas assuredly lets her know she is tied in tidy and tight. Bruce's tranquil voice leads out with a calming thought. "Listen to the wind blowing in your ears just like your mother is singing to you. Then you can feel the good Lord's hand safely rocking you to sleep with each puff of wind." Quietly and obediently, Ella says, Yes, sir. Only because you say." "Well, actually, I do remember Maria singing to me. You're right." Then Thomas comfortingly adds, "And you know a million songs. Keep singing for Champ's sake." Ella takes a deep breath and begins singing again. Champ moves closer to her and lays his head on the hammock. The storm is raging on. She sings and sings and sings. She sings until the gentle rocking of the hammock lulls her into a safe, gentle sleep, and Champ is calm. After hours of blowing, the wind finally dies down. The driving rain stops pelting them. The clouds roll by. The stars are shining bright in the heavens above the treetops. There is no one to see those lovely stars. They are all tucked in and sleeping safely in the night. Well, guess what? That's the end of that chapter. So we're going to be moving on to chapter 6 next time. And oh yes, it is time to say bye-bye. Well, thanks for joining me again. And you go forth and have a lovely weekend with your family. And thank you for always keeping Jesus in your heart, because Jesus loves you. I know that. Well, bye-bye for now. Love hugs from Grama Jean.